In this class, we're going to talk about joint variation. What exactly do we mean by joint variation in mathematics? Joint variation describes a relationship between variables where one variable depends on two or more other variables and the relationship is directly or inversely proportional. When we talk about joint variation, it is a kind of relationship that in which we are going to have two variables being related as either being directly or inversely. You understand? Don't forget, in our previous class we've talked about direct and indirect variation. Are you getting it? So joint variation combine both direct and indirect variation. Are you getting it? So maybe if you didn't understand or you want to learn more about direct or indirect variation, you can check the description of this class. Check the link in the channel. Check the link in the first comment or the description of this video. Click on that link to watch more on that. Okay, so having understand what is meant by joint variation, let's look at some work example to help us to understand better. Okay, now I want to write this question. M varies directly as n and inversely as the square of p. If m is equals to 3, where n is equals to 2, and p is equals to 1, find m in terms of n and p. Okay, please, I want you to pay attention. This is a typical examples on joint variation, so I want you to pay attention very well. Now, if you look, let's just interpret that question. M varies directly as n. Okay, now listen. M varies directly as n. Okay, and inversely as the square of p. This same m, listen, from the definition of joint variation, I told you that it is a kind of variation that describes the relationship between variables where one variable depends on two or more other variables. You understand? Where one variable depends on two or more other variables. I want you to note that statement. Okay, now back to the question. You will discover that this variable m varies directly as n and inversely as the square of p. So inversely as the square of p means 1 over p squared. Do you understand? Okay, so this is the mathematical interpretation of that statement. A variable m varies directly as n and inversely as the square of p. You understand? Okay, now if you are asked what is meant by joint variation, joint variation is a kind of variation that describes the relationship that exists between it is a kind of variation that describes the relationship that exists between one where one variable depends on two or more variables. You understand? It is a kind of relationship whereby one variable, you understand, that is, you can see in the question, this variable m depends on n and it also depends on p. This kind of variation is what we call joint variation. You understand? So and I told you that you have to be you have to understand direct variation and indirect or inverse variation. Okay, so now let us proceed with the question. Now if m is equals to 3, if m, we are given that m, well, let me change this marker. Okay, if m is equals to 3, okay, where n is equals to 2 and p is equals to 1, we are asked to find m in terms of n and p. Find m in terms of n and p. Now look at that question. We are asked to find m in terms of n and p. That is, we are asked to express m in terms of n and p. Okay, now we cannot do that without solving the question. Okay, now before we can find m in terms of p, we need our proportionality constant. Okay, we have to introduce our proportionality constant. Now if I want to introduce this proportionality constant, this variation sign will be changed to equals to sign. Do you understand? If at all I want to change this variation sign to an equals to sign, because you see this entity that you see here, this m is not equivalent to n over p squared, you understand? But in an attempt to help us to change this variation sign to equals to sign, we want to tell us m is equals to n over p squared. We have to introduce the proportionality constant, because that will tell us the degree at which the degree of differences that exist between this single variable and the variable that it depends on, which are n and p. Do you understand? Okay, so in that case, I'm going to rewrite the equation as m is equals to kn all over p squared. Do you understand? Okay, now the next step is that I need to determine the value of k. Now, to determine the value of k, don't forget that we've been given that m is equals to 3 and n is equals to 2, while p is equals to 1 in the question. So now m is equals to 3, I'm going to have 3 here, equals to k multiplied by n. N is 2, so multiply by 2 all over p squared. P is 1, so I'm going to have 1 squared. Do you understand? Okay, now from this point, 1 square is 1, right? Yes. 1 times 3 is 3, so I'm going to have 2k is equals to 3, right? So to get the value of k, I'm going to divide both by 2. So k is equals to 3 over 2. Now, having gotten the value of k, we can now express m in terms of n by substituting the value of k as 3 over 2. Do you understand? Listen to the explanation again. This is m in terms of k, but we cannot give this answer. We need to find the value of the constant. You understand? The value of the proportionality constant, and we've already gotten it as what? 3 over 2. So having gotten the value of this k as 3 over 2, to give us our full mark, you understand? If you stop here, you're not going to earn your full mark, okay? So the expressing m in terms of n and p is m is equals to 3 over 2n all over p and all over p squared, okay? So well, you can still proceed like this: m equals to 3n all over 2 divided by p squared. Do you understand? And you can still proceed: m is equals to 3n all over 2 multiplied by 1 over p squared, okay? So m is equals to 3n all over 2p squared. Do you understand? Okay, so that is the solution to that question. Now let's move to another question. Okay, if p varies directly as the square of q and inversely as r, if p is equals to 36 and q is equals to 3 and r equals to 4, find p when q is 5 and r equals to 2. Okay, now let us interpret the question mathematically. P varies directly as the square of p. We have a single variable p varies directly as the square of q. So I'm going to have q squared. Do you understand? Don't forget what when we talk about joint variation, it is an attempt to describe the relationship that exists whereby one variable depends on 2 or more variables. You understand? Are you getting it? That kind of a relationship is what we call the joint variation. Okay, listen, this is the basic concept. When you understand this concept, you will be able to solve any question that comes under joint variation, and you will be able to identify the type of variation with respect to the question that you are given. Okay, so when you have a variable depending on 2 or more variables, that kind of relationship is what we call joint variation. Do you understand? Okay, now back to the question. A variable p varies directly as q squared, as we've been informed in the question. Now, and inversely as r. Inversely means the reciprocal. Okay, so I'm going to have over r. Do you understand? That is the mathematical expression of that statement. Now, having done this, we are given that if p is equals to 36, p is equals to 36, and q is equals to 3, q equals to 3, okay? P is equals to 36, q equals to 3, and r is equals to 4, okay? R equals to 4. Find p when q equals to 5 and r equals to 2. We are asked to find p. We are looking for p when q equals to 5 and r equals to 2. Okay, now let's solve this question. Well, before we can find p when q equals to 5 and r equals to 2, we need to first change these variation signs to equals to sign, and to do that we need to introduce our proportionality constant, which will tell us the degree of differences that exist between this variable p and the variable that it depends on. Do you understand? Okay, so for this I'm going to have p. This p is equals to kq squared all over r. Do you understand? So now let us get the value of the constant, which is k. Now for this I'm going to have p, which is 36. 36 is equals to k multiplied by q squared. Q is 3, so I'm going to have multiplied by 3 squared all over r. R is 4, so I'm going to have all over 4 here. Please, are you getting what I'm doing at all? If you didn't understand, listen to the explanation again, okay? It's simple. Now, having gotten to this point, we can take the cross product, right? Yes. So we're going to have 3 squared is 9, so I'm going to have 9k is equals to 36 times 4, that is 144. Okay? Yes. Now, the next step to get the value of k, the next step is that I'm going to divide both sides by 9, okay? 144 divided by 9 will give us 16. So I'm going to have this over 9, k is equals to 16. Now, we've gotten the value of k as 16. We can now find the value of p when q is 5 and r is 2. Now, I want to emphasize on something. Let's say the question says you should find the equation connecting p, q, and r. This is the equation, okay? It is this equation that they are asking. But you have to get the value of k, and we have already gotten it. So the equation becomes like this: p equals to k. K is 16, so I'm going to have 16 q squared all over r. This is the equation connecting p, q, and r. Do you understand? Okay, so it is in this equation that we are going to find. Using this equation, we can find q and we can find p when q is 5 and r is 2. So let's proceed. For this, I'm going to have p equals to 16 multiplied by q squared. Q is 5, so I'm going to have multiplied by 5 squared all over r. R is 2, so I'm going to have all over 2. P is equals to 16 multiplied by 25 all over 2. Okay, now I'm going to, this 2 divided by this is 8, right? So I'm going to have 8 multiplied by 25. 8 times 25 is 200, so I'm going to have p is equals to 200. Okay, so when q is 5 and r is 2, the value of p is 200. Do you understand? Let's consider this question on joint variation. If p, q, and r are related in such a way that p varies directly as the square of q and inversely as r, when p is equals to 36, q is equals to 3, and r equals to 4, calculate q when p equals to 100 and r equals to 2. Okay, we are given this mathematical expression as the relationship between p, q, and r. P varies directly as q squared and inversely as r. Okay, now we are given that p equals to 36, and q equals to 3, and r equals to 4. We are asked to find the value of q. We are asked to find the value of q when p is equals to 200 and r is equals to 2. We are asked to find the value of q. We are asked to find this value. Now, the first step is that change this variation signs to equals to sign by introducing a proportionality constant. So p is equals to kq squared all over r. You understand? Okay. Now, with respect to the first values that were given, we can calculate the value of k, which is the constant. Okay, so I'm going to have 36 is equals to kq squared, which is what? 3 squared all over 4. Is that not it? Now, I'm going to have 3 squared is 9, so I'm going to have 9, I'm going to have 9k is equals to 36 times 4 is what? 144. This over 9 and this over 9. 144 divided by 9, that is 16. So I'm going to have k is equals to 16. Now, having gotten the value of k as 16, we can proceed to calculate the value of q when p is equals to 200 and r is equals to 2. You understand? So, how do we do that? Please pay attention. To get the value of q when p equals to 200 and r equals to 2, we know that k is equals to 16. If k is equals to 16, I can write this as p is equals to k. K is 16. I'm going to have 16q squared all over r. Do you understand? Okay, this is the mathematical relationship that exists between p, q, and r. Do you understand? Now, we were told to find the value of q when p is this and r is this. So, just substitute the value of p and r into this equation and then solve for the value of q. Do you understand? Okay, p is 200, so I'm going to have 200 is equals to 16 multiplied by q squared, okay, all over r. R is 2, don't forget, so I'm going to have this over 2. So 16q squared is equals to 200 over 1. 200 times 2 is 400, so I'm going to have this over 400, this over 16, and this over 16. I'm going to have q squared is equals to, now, please, I want you to pay attention very well. You can do this in two ways. You can take the square root of both sides directly, and you can punch your calculator. It's just that, okay, let's do it step by step. 400 divided by 16, that is 25, you understand? So we're going to have 25 here, and q is equals to the square root of 25. Take the square root of both sides. Q is equals to 5, you understand? And when you got here, you can have q equals to what? 400 over 16, right? So, okay, q squared equals to 400 over 16. If you take the square root of both sides, you're going to have this q, this. I'm going to have q is equals to 20 divided by 4. You understand? Because square root of 400 is 20, square root of 16 is 4. 20 divided by 4 is what? 5. So I'm going to have q equals to 5. You can do it this way and you can do it this way. You understand? Okay, so the value of q when p is 200 and r is 2 is 5. Do you understand? Okay, let's look at one more question. If A varies directly as the product of B and C, when B is equals to 4 and C equals to 6, A equals to 30, find A. The relationship between A, B, and C, that's the first question. The second question under that, we are asked to find A when B equals to 4 and C equals to 6, okay? The question is simple. All you have to do is just pay attention. You can see that in joint variation, we are dealing with a variable depending on two variables. You understand? Okay? So that is the basic idea. That's the basic ideology with, behind this concept, joint variation. Okay? So if you come across this in the exam, I'm very sure you'll be able to solve the question. Now, we are given that A varies directly as the product of B and C. A varies directly as the product of B and C. Now we are given that A, when B equals to 4, B equals to 4, and C equals to 6, A equals to 30. Now, we are now asked to find the relationship between A, B, and C. Now, please pay attention. I told you that in dealing with variation question, the first step is that you have to change the variation sign to an equals to sign, right? Yes. Now, if I'm to change this variation sign to an equals to sign, I'm going to introduce a proportionality constant. Don't forget, okay? So in that case, I'm going to have A equals to KBC, okay? So having done this, I have to find the value of the constant, okay? So I'm going to have A is 30, 30 equals to K. I don't know the value of K. B is what? 4. 4 multiplied by C. C is what? C is 6. So I'm going to have 4 multiplied by 6. Okay? So 24K equals to 30, okay? K equals to 30 over 24. We can reduce this to lowest term, okay, by dividing both numerator and denominator by 6, right? So I'm going to have K equals to 5 all over 4. Do you understand? Okay, so this is the value of K. Now, having gotten the value of K, we can now proceed to the first question here. The first question says we should find the relationship between A, B, and C. Let me tell you, the relationship that exists between A, B, and C is this: A equals to K, B, C. Now, you cannot leave your answer like this. We have to insert the value of K as 5 over 4. Do you understand? Otherwise, you are not going to earn your full mark. Okay? So, I'm going to have A equals to K. K is 5 over 4. I'm going to have 5 over 4 multiplied by B multiplied by C. Do you understand? Or A equals to 5BC all over 4. Okay? If you put like this, or the other way, you can you're still correct. Okay, so that's the relationship that exists between A, B, and C. Now the second question says we should find the value of A when B is 4. Find the value of A. Please pay attention. Find the value of A when B is equals to 4 and C is equals to 6. Okay, and C equals to 6. So don't forget that the relationship that exists between A, B, and C is what? A equals to 5 over 4 BC. So I'm going to have A equals to 5 over 4 BC, right? Now the value of B is now 4, the value of C is 6. So I'm going to have A equals to 5 over 4 multiplied by B. What's B? 4 multiplied by C, which is what? 6. I'm going to have A equals to 5. This 4 can cancel this 4. So I'm going to have 5 times 6, okay? 5 times 6 is 30, so I'm going to have A equals to 30. So when B is 4 and C is 6, the value of A is 30. Do you understand? Okay, you can see that it's simple. So if you come across this question in exam, don't be frigid, okay? Just solve it calmly, knowing that joint variation is a kind of variation in which the relationship that exists between a single variable depending on two variables. Let me just put it like that, okay? Let's consider this question on joint variation. If y varies directly as the product of y and z, and y equals to 4, z equals to 9, and x equals to 6, find the relationship between x, y, and z. Find y when x equals to 8 and z equals to 12. Okay, we are given that if x varies directly as the product of y and z, that means that if you want to write the mathematical expression for that relationship, we are going to have x varies directly as the product of y and z. Do you understand? Okay, having done that, we are given that y equals to 4, z equals to 9, and x equals to 6. Okay, the first question is to find the relationship between x, y, and z. Now, the relationship between x, y, and z, that is the first question. Okay, how do we get the relationship between x, y, and z? To get the relationship, we have to first change this equals to sign to change this variation sign to an equals to sign. You see, relationship between x, y, and z means that how does x, y, and z connect to themselves? You understand? How are they connected to each other? Do you understand? Okay, so in that case, I'm going to change these division signs to equals to sign by introducing a proportionality constant. Do you understand? Okay, so I'm going to have x equals to k, y, z. Do you understand? Now, if x equals to k, y, z, now I need to get the value of this constant, okay? Because in our previous class, I've already told you the reason why we always introduce a proportionality constant when we change this variation sign to an equals to sign. So now x equals to k, y, z. I need to get the value of k, which is the constant. Now, to get the value of k, don't forget that we've given the question, we've been given a set of values. we are given some value, a value for y, for z, and for x. So I can substitute those values into this. So I'm going to have y is 4, right? X is 6. So I'm going to have 6 equals to k. I don't know the value of k, but I know the value of y as 4. 4 multiplied by and z, which is 9. Are you there? Now, for this, I'm going to have 4, k times 4 times 9. 9 times 4 is what? That is 36. Do you understand? Okay, so I'm going to have 36k equals to 6, okay? Divide both by 36 to get the value of k. So k is equals to 1 over 6. Do you understand? Okay, now having gotten to this point, please pay attention. Having gotten to this point, the next step is that to get the equation connecting x, y, and z, I just have to replace the value of k as 1 over 6 into this equation, you understand? Into this formula rather. So I'm going to have x equals to k. K is 1 over 6, so I'm going to have 1 over 6 multiplied by y multiplied by z, okay? So x is equals to yz all over 6, okay? That is the equation connecting x, y, and z, okay? Now we are asked to find the value of y when x equals to 8 and z equals to 12. To get the value of y when x equals to 8 and z equals to 12, all you have to do is that just replace the value of x as 8 and z equals to 12 into this equation, into this formula. So I'm going to have x equals to what? Yz all over 6. So we are given that x equals to 8 and z equals to 12. Okay, now x equals to 8, I'm going to have 8 equals to y multiplied by 12 all over 6, right? Yes. I'm going to have 8 equals to, now 6 here 1, 6 in 12, that is what? 2. I'm going to have 2y, okay? Divide both sides by 2, this over 2 and this over 2. Y equals to 4, okay? So when x equals to 8 and z equals to 12, the value of y is 4. Do you understand? Okay? Let's proceed to the next question. If P varies directly as Q and inversely as R, when P equals to 24, R equals to 12, and Q equals to 9, find the relationship between P, Q, and R, and P when Q equals to 35 and R equals to 16. Okay? Just pay attention, okay? It's simple. Now, to solve that question, the question is a bit similar to what we just did. It's just that we have an inverse. You understand what I'm saying? We have an inverse. So now, P varies directly as Q. So I'm going to have P varies directly as Q and inversely as R. This is the mathematical expression for that statement. Do you understand? P varies directly as Q and inversely as R. Inversely simply means the reciprocal of that letter. For example, let's say we have the inverse of R is what? 1 over R. Are you getting it? So now we have P varies directly as Q and inversely as R. When P equals to 24, P equals to 24, the value of R equals to 12 and Q equals to 9. Now we are asked to find the relationship between P, Q, and R, and we are asked to find P when Q equals to 35 and R equals to 16. Well, to get the relationship between P, Q, and R, the first step is that we have to change these variation signs to an equals to sign, okay? Now, for this, I'm going to have P equals to KQ all over R, okay? Having gotten this, to get the value of the constant, which is K, we have to substitute the value of P, Q, and PR and E. Yes, PR and Q as 24, 12, and 9 respectively. So I'm going to have 24 equals to, now, we don't know the value of K, that is our goals. Our goals now is to determine the value of K. So Q has been given as 12, so I'm going to have 12 multiplied by, okay, Q has been given as 9. 9 multiplied by K all over R. R is 12. Do you understand? Okay, having gotten to this step, you can get the value of K, or you can still reduce this. So I'm going to have 24 equals to 3 over 4 and 3K over 4. Now, cross multiply, I'm going to have 24 24 multiplied by 4. 24 times 4 will give us 96. So I'm going to have 96k equals to 96 over 3, right? Yes, because for this I'm going to divide both by 3. Or maybe we should do it step by step. Let's do it step by step. This 3k equals to 96. Divide both by 3. This over 3 and this over 3. K equals to 32, right? Now, having gotten the value of k as 32, we can now determine the relationship between p, q, and r by substituting the value of k as 32 into this. Do you understand? Okay, so for this, okay, let's erase this. So P equals to KQ all over R. P equals to K, which is 32. 32Q. What is the value of Q? We don't know it. All over R. You can see now. So that is the relationship between P, Q, and R. Do you understand? Now pay attention again. You see, in solving a question on derivation, there is something called constant. The constant is very important as far as solving the question is concerned. So in an attempt to help us to change this to equals to sign, I introduced constant as k. You can use any value. Are you getting it? But I use k here. So I get the value of k as 32 by substituting the value of p as 24 and the value of r as 12 and the value of q as 9. Okay, having gotten 32, the relationship is this, but I need to find this constant. So I got this constant as 32, then I replace it as 32. That means the first question is complete. Now for the second question, we are asked to find p when q is 35 and r is 12. Find p when q is 35 and r is equals to 12. Okay, and now is equals to 16. And now equals to 16. Well, that's simple. All you have to do is that P equals to Q is now 35. So I'm going to have 32 multiplied by 35 all over 16. Do you understand? Okay. 32, okay, we can still divide. P is equals to 16 here 1, 16 here 2. So I'm going to have 2 times 35. 2 times 35 equals to 70. So the value of P when Q is 35 and R is 16 is P equals to 70. Do you understand? Okay, so that is the solution to that question. Now let me give you the steps in solving any question on variation. Listen, in solving any question on variation, be it direct, indirect, joint that you are dealing with, the first step is that you have to change the variation sign to an equals to sign by introducing a proportionality constant. Now, having done that, you have to get the value of k with respect to the variable that you are given. And when you are done, you can proceed to solve for anything that you are asked to solve. Do you understand? Okay. Let's consider this question on joint variation. M varies directly as n and inversely as the square of p. If m equals to 3 and n equals to 2 and p equals to 1, find m in terms of n and p. We are asked to find m in terms of n and p. Okay, from the first statement, we are given that m varies directly and inversely. Okay, directly as n and inversely as the square of p. So let us write the mathematical representation of the first statement. M varies directly as n and inversely as the square of p. So inversely as p squared. So we are given that m equals to 3. If m equals to 3, n equals to 2, and p equals to 1, we are asked to find m in terms of n and p. Okay, now to find m in terms of n and p, don't forget that we are dealing with variation, and in variation we cannot proceed with the variation sign. We first have to change this to equals to sign, and to do that we have to introduce a proportionality constant. Do you understand? So I'm going to have m equals to k multiplied by n over p squared. Okay, now we need to get the value of k. Are you getting it? From the values that you have been given. Okay, so m is 3, so I'm going to have 3 equals to k multiplied by n, which is 2, all over p squared. P is 1, so I'm going to have over 1 squared. Do you understand? 1 square is 1, so I'm going to have 2k equals to 1 square times 3. 1 square is 1. 1 times 3 is what? 3. So I'm going to have 2k equals to 3. To get the value of k, divide this by 2. This over 2. So k equals to 3 over 2. Now, don't forget that the goals of the question is to find m in terms of n and p. Now, to get the value of m in terms of n and p, we just have to replace the value of k as 3 over 2 in this formula. Okay, the formula is m equals to kn all over p squared. M equals to, what's the value of k? 3 over 2. I'm going to have 3 over 2 multiplied by n all over p squared. M equals to 3n all over 2 all over p squared. Okay, please pay attention. 3 over 2n. 3 times n is what? 3n. And this division sign, this 2 is here. And this division sign is here. And p squared is here. Do you understand? I've not done anything. Okay. So m equals to 3n all over 2 divided by p squared all over 1, right? Okay. M equals to 3n all over 2 multiplied by 1 over p squared. Is that not it? Yes. M equals to 3n all over 2p squared, which is the final answer to that question. Okay, so the meaning of expressing m in terms of n and p simply means make m the subject of the formula. So m in terms of p is m equals to 3n all over 2p squared. Do you understand? Okay, so let's look at one more question. X, y, z are related quantities. Okay, that's the question. X, y, z are related quantities such that x varies directly as y and inversely as the square root of z. When x equals to 300, y equals to 75, and z equals to 25, calculate the value of x when y equals to 468 and z equals to 144. Okay. Okay, I'm coming. X varies directly as y. X varies directly as y and inversely as the square root of z. You can see, let me tell you, you have to learn how to interpret questions. Okay, it is very important. You have to learn how to interpret questions. So we are given that x, y, z are related quantities. Now they now tells us how they are related. This is how they are related. X varies directly as y and inversely as the square root of z. So this is the first mathematical expression of the first statement. Okay, now when x is 300, x equals to 300, yes, y equals to 75, and z equals to 25. We are asked to calculate the value of x, find the value of x when y equals to 468 and z equals to 144. Okay, now to get the value of x when y equals to 468 and z equals to 144, we first need to introduce our constant, because it is important that we change these variation signs to an equals to sign. So let's go. For this, I'm going to have x equals to ky all over the square root of z. So having changed these variation signs to an equals to sign, we need to find the value of k with respect to the first parameters that we are given as the value of x, y, and z. So x is 300, so I'm going to have 300 equals to ky. Y is 75, so I'm going to have 75y all over root of z. The square root of z is what? Square root of 25, right? Yes, because z is 25. So I'm going to have, now pay attention. Square root of z is 5. 300 is equals to 75y all over 5. That's it. Okay, 75y is equals to 300 times 5. Oh, sorry, this should be k. Please listen very carefully. Y has been given as 75, so I'm going to have, this should be k, and this should be k as well. So I'm going to have 75k equals to 300 times 5. So I'm going to have 300 times 5, right? Please listen to me very carefully. I replace the value of x, y, and z as 300, 75, and 25 in this equation. You understand? To get the value of k. Are you getting it? So when I've already got to that point, 300 times 5 will give us 1500. So 1500 divided by 75, that will give us 20. Do you understand? Okay, so this over 75 and this over 75, k equals to 20. Okay, so having gotten the value of k, we can now calculate the value of x when y is 468 and z is 144. Don't forget that this is the relationship x equals to ky all over square root of z. So to get the value of x, I just have to replace the value of y as 468 here, z as 144 here, and k as the value that I got, which is 20. Okay, so x is equals to k, which is 20, multiplied by y. What is y? Y has been given at 468, so I'm going to have 20 times 468 all over the square root of z. The square root of z now will be square root of 144. Square root of 144, right? Yes. So for this, I'm going to have x equals to, now, 20 times 468. 20 times 468, that is 9,360. 9,360. So I'm going to have here 9,360 all over the square root of 144 is 12. So I'm going to have this over 12. Now divide it, you are going to have 780. Okay, so x equals to 780. When y equals to 468, z equals to 144, x equals to 780. Let's consider this question. Let's consider this question on joint variation. The load with a crane. Please pay attention. Let's consider this question on joint variation. The load which a crane can lift is directly proportional to the load mass and inversely proportional to the height through which the load is to be lifted. Okay? If a load of 40 tons and mass 175 kg is lifted through a height of 70 meters, what load will be carried through height 50 meters given the mass as 260 kg? Okay, now I want you to pay attention to the question. The first statement there is that a load which a crane can lift is directly proportional to the load mass. Okay, so let's represent the load. Let's represent the load as L. The load is directly proportional to the load mass. Okay, that is directly proportional to the mass of the load. Are you getting it? Okay, and inversely proportional to the height. Okay, inversely proportional to the height. Let's represent this as height. So that is the mathematical representation of that statement. Now, if a load of 40 ton, and the mass of 175 kg is lifted to an height of 70 meter, you can see now. So we are asked to what load will be carried. What is the load that will be carried through height 50 meter, given that the mass is 260. Okay, we don't know the load. We are given that the mass is 260 kg. and the height is 50 meter now. Okay, so these are the parameters that were given in the question. Okay, now, well, to solve this question, we still goes the same way. Just change these variation signs to equals to sign. Okay, so I'm going to have L equals to K multiplied by mass all over the height. Okay, now to get the value of K, replace L as 40, M as 75, 175, and H as 70. So I'm going to have 40 multiplied by T, which is the tone, multiplied by K, multiplied by M, okay, equals to K multiplied by 175 all over height, which is what? 70. Okay, 40 times 70. 40 times 70 is 2,800. So I'm going to have 175K is equals to 2,800. Okay, divided by 175. This is 175, and this is 175. Now 2,800 divided by 175, that will give us 16. So the value of K is equals to 16. Now, having gotten the value of K as 16, we can now proceed to calculate the load when mass is 260 and height is what? 50 meter. All we have to do is that just replace the value of K, M, and H as 16, 260, and 50 respectively. Okay, K is 16, so I'm going to have L equals to 16 M all over H. L equals to, now we are looking for L now. M is 260, so I'm going to have 260 multiplied by 16 all over H. Okay, are you there? L equals to 260 multiplied by 16. 260 times 16 will give us that is 4,160. 4,160 divided by 50. Divided by 50. That is 83.2. You understand? 83.2. Okay. The unit is in ton, so leave it in ton. L equals to 83 ton. Do you understand? Okay. The load that the question is to calculate. I want you to pay attention now. Well, you can put your answer like this. So therefore, the load that will be carried through an height of 50 meter, given the mass as 260 kilogram, is 83 ton. Do you understand? Okay, let's look at the another question here. Given that the energy E varies directly as the resistance R and inversely as the square of the distance, obtain an equation connecting E and R. Given that E equals to 32 over 25 when R equals to 8 and D equals to 5. Okay, question here, calculate the value of R when E equals to 16 and D equals to 3. Calculate the value of D when R equals to 5 and E equals to 5 over 6. And the third question under that, find the percentage increase in the value of R when each of E and D increases by 3%. Okay, that's the right question. So I want to pay attention as I solved. Do you understand? I want to listen very carefully as I solved. Now, let's erase this. Okay, energy E varies directly as the resistance R. E varies directly as the resistance R and inversely as the square of the distance. Square of the distance D. That is the mathematical expression of that statement. Okay. Now we are asked to obtain an equation connecting E and R. Given that E equals to 32 over 25, E equals to 32, please pay attention. E equals to 32 over 25, yes. And when R equals to 8 and D equals to 5. And we are also asked to calculate, well, before we calculate, let us first obtain the equation connecting E, R, and D. Okay, and to solve this question, I know you are very aware that we have to first change the proportionality sign to an equals to sign. So I'm going to introduce a constant. So I'm going to have E equals to KR all over D squared. Do you understand? Okay, now I need to get the value of K before I can do anything. So K will be equals to E D squared all over R. You understand? I just make K the subject of the relation. I've not done anything. Or you are wondering what I did? This is what I did. E equals to KR over D squared, right? KR is equals to E D squared. Are you getting it? Divide both by R, this over R and this over R. So K equals to E D squared all over R. Do you understand? Okay, back to the question. Now let us replace E as 32 over 25, D squared, D as 5 and R as 8. I'm going to have K equals to 32 over 32, sorry. 32 over 25 multiplied by this is the numerator now, D squared. Multiply by D squared. D squared is 5. I'm going to have 5 squared. This all over R. R is what? 8. So I'm going to have this over 8. Do you understand? Okay. K is equals to 32 over 25 multiplied by 25 all over 8. So K equals to 25, we cancel this 25, I'm going to have 32 all over 8. 32 divided by 8 is what? Is 4. So I'm going to have K equals to 4. Are you getting it? Now, having gotten the value of K as 4, we can now write out the relationship that exists between E, R, and D as. We are going to substitute the value of K into this formula as 4. So I'm going to have the first question there, E equals to 4R all over D squared. That is the relationship connecting E, D, and R as stated in the question that we should look for, that we should calculate. Now, having gotten the relationship, we can now proceed to calculate the value of R when E equals to 16 and D equals to 3. The value of R when E equals to 16, and D equals to 3, and D equals to 3. Okay, let's go. E equals to 16. See, let me tell you, when you obtain the equation or the formula connecting the variables, this is the formula connecting the variables. E equals to 4R over D squared. All you have to do is just replace the value of the variable that you are given to get the unknown variable that you are looking for. Okay, so E equals to 16. I'm going to have 16 equals to 4 multiplied by R. R is what we are looking for, all over 3 squared, right? So I'm going to have 16 equals to 4R all over 9, right? Are you getting it? So 16, from that place we can take the cross product. You understand? 16 multiplied by 9, that is 144. So I'm going to have 4R is equals to 144. To get the value of R, I have to divide both by 4. So R equals to 144 divided by 4. That will give us 36. So the value of R is 36. Do you understand? Okay, so that is the solution to the first question under that question. Now we are asked to calculate the value of D. That's the second question now. Calculate the value of D when R equals to 5 and E equals to 5 over 6. Determine the value of D. Okay, let me erase this. Okay. Determine the value of D. Let me change this marker. Determine the value of D when R equals to 5 and E equals to 5/6. Okay, now listen, this is the equation connecting them. E equals to 4R, E equals to 4R over D squared. We have replace E as 5/6. I'm going to have 5/6 equals to 4 multiplied by R. R is 5 now, all over D squared, right? We have 5/6 is equals to 20 over D squared. Is that not it? Now take the cross product. I'm going to have 5D squared equals to 6 times 20, right? 6 times 20, that is what? 120. So to get the value of D, divide both sides by 5. I'm going to have this over 5 and this over 5, right? So D squared equals to, now 120 divided by 5, that is 24. So to get the value of D, the square root of both sides, I'm going to have D equals to square root of 6 times 4, right? So D equals to 2√6. Okay, now because square root of 4 is 2 and square root of 6 will give us decimal, so I just leave it like this. Okay, you can put it in decimal. Do you understand? Okay, we have gotten the value of D. That's the second question. The second question, question B under that. Okay, now let us proceed to question C. Find the percentage increase in the value of R when each of E and B increases by 30%. Okay, now you can solve this question in two ways. Listen to me carefully. You can solve this question in two ways. I'm going to show you the first way, okay, and I'm going to explain to you the second way. So just pay attention. Now, if they find the percentage increase in the value of R when each of E and B increases by 30%. Now, look, listen. The equation connecting E, R, and D is what? E equals to 4R all over D squared. Let us call this equation as initial value of E, D, and R. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Listen to me carefully. You know, when we talk about percentage increase, we are talking about something increasing from one value to another value. Expressing that increment in percentage is what we call percentage increase. Do you understand? Listen to the explanation again. Let's say that we increase one increases to maybe a variable x increases from x to maybe 2x. We are now asked to calculate the percentage increase. That will be what? Expressing that the increment is what? 2x minus x. That is what? X, right? Now, if you are asked to express x as a percentage, that value is what we call percentage increase. You understand? So now let's assume that this is the initial value of E, D, and R. You understand? Now we are told that E and D increases by what? 30%, right? So 30% increase. 30% means 3 over 100. Are you getting it? So I'm going to have, if E increases, E2 will be 3% of E plus E. Are you getting what I'm saying? 3% of the initial value plus the initial value. That is it. Okay. So I'm going to have 0.03E plus E. Okay. Now 0.03E plus E will give us what? That will give us 1.03E. Okay. Now D also increases by 3%. So let's call it D2. Okay. I just call it D2. It doesn't matter. Okay. So D2 equals to 3% of D plus D itself. So I'm going to have 0.03D plus D. That will give us what? 1.03D. Okay, now this is the increment. When E increases from the initial value by 3%, it gives us this and this. Now, next step is to make R the sub. Don't forget that it is the increment of R that we are looking for. And percentage increase, this thing, percentage increase is equals to new value of the variable minus the old value of the variable all over the old value of the variable multiplied by 100%. That is the percentage increase. And we have already said that this is the initial value, the old value. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? The old value of the initial variable is E, D, and R. Now, when we increase E and D by 3%, we have 1.03E and 1.03D. Now, we want to look for the new value of R, you understand, so that we can calculate the percentage increase of R. Okay, so now, let's proceed. Make R the subject of the formula here. I'm going to have E equals to 4R all over D squared, right? So, for this, I'm going to have 4R is equals to E D squared, because we are going to take the cross product. Okay, so R equals to E D squared all over 4. Is that not it? Okay, so that is the value of R. Now, let us call this one R1. Okay, let's call this one R1. Okay, let us call this one E1 also. R1, D1. Let's call this one also E1, 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 D1, D1, D1. Okay, do you understand? I just call it, I just want to, I want to understand better. That's why I just give them that names. Okay, now. Now, R1 equals to E1 D1 all over 4, right? Now, let us replace the value of E, the increment now. R2, the new value of R will be E2, you understand? Which is what? 1.03. E2 is what? 1.03, right? I'm going to have 1.03 E1, 1.03 E1, are you getting it? Multiplied by D2, you understand? D2 is what? 1.03 D2, 1.03 D2. Now don't forget that there is square on D. All over what? All over 4, right? Okay. So R2 is equals to 1.03. Now listen. If you take the square 1.03 squared, what's the answer? 1.03 squared is 1.0609. So I'm going to have 1.03 E1 multiplied by 1.0609 D2. Oh, D1 is D1. D1 squared, okay? Are you getting it? All over 4. Do you understand? Okay. So R2 equals to 1.03 multiplied by 1.0609 E1 multiplied by D1 squared all over 4, right? Are you getting it? So now listen to me. I can rewrite this. Listen. 1.03 times 1.069. 1.0. That is 1.0927, okay? 1.0927 E1 D1 squared all over 4, right? I can rewrite this, listen to me carefully. I can rewrite R2 as this. R2, please listen. I can write this thing, I can rewrite R2 as this. 1.0927 multiplied by E1 D1 squared all over 4. Is that not it? Yes. I just put this, and this is this, and this is this. If I multiply this by this, I'm still going to have this, and this 4 will also become the denominator. Do you understand? Okay. Now, don't forget that this entity that you see here is what? R1. Okay. Because R1 is what? E1 D1 squared all over what? All over 4. So R2 automatically is 1.0927 R1. Okay. So now back to the question. You must learn how to interpret. Are you getting it? You must learn how to interpret. So let's go back to the question. Now, this is the value of R2. R2 equals to 1.0927 R1. Okay. Now we cannot calculate the percentage increase in the value of R. I'm just looking up. Let us erase this. Okay, let's erase this. Now we can calculate the percentage increase in the value of R because we have the old value and the new value now. We have the initial value of R and the new value of R. The new value of R is R2 and the initial value of R is R1. R1 is simply means R, you understand? So let's go. The percentage increase in the value of R will be equals to, I'm coming, still feeling what from here. Percentage increase in the value of R is equals to R2 minus R1 all over R1 multiplied by 100. Okay, R2 is what? 1.0927 R1 minus R1 all over R1 multiplied by 100. Okay, you see, let me tell you, R1 is also the same thing as 1 R1. You understand? X is also the same thing as 1x, right? Yes. R1 is also the same thing as 1 R1. So I'm going to have this minus this. I'm going to have 0.927. Okay, 0.00927 R1 all over R1. This minus this is this, and the denominator is this. Multiply by 100. This R1 cancel this R1. I'm going to have, now this times this, I'm going to have 0.0927 times 100, right? So this will be what? 9.27%. Okay, so the percentage increase, listen, the percentage increase in the value of R as D and E increases by as D and E increases by 3% is 9.27%. Okay, that is the solution to that question. If you get this answer right, you are correct. Okay, and if you have any question regarding what we've learned in this class, let me know in the comment section. Okay, see you in the next class. To watch the complete class, kindly click on the link in the description of this video or the comment section. Okay, see you in the next class.